Logo for the National Training and Development Curriculum for Foster and Adoptive Parents. Accessing Services and Supports, January 2020.
All children in foster care, or who have been adopted, even as infants, have experienced some level of separation, loss, and grief. Even if the placement is positive and the relationship is strong, these experiences can affect a child's development in many ways: social skills, emotional development, cognitive ability, and physical development. As a result, it is critical that parents who are fostering and adopting remain engaged and continue to seek out services and supports. It is important for parents who are fostering and adopting to remember they are not in this alone. Services and supports differ across the nation, but they are available wherever you are. You need to know what services and supports are available and how to access them from the very beginning of your journey with the child you are caring for. Think of your efforts to access services and supports in 3 parts. Key strategies to become an effective advocate for children. Your therapeutic network of professionals, friends, relatives, and others who can support you. And the types of services and supports that are available for children and their families. Your strategy is a plan of action that starts by partnering with providers.
I think of advocacy as a partnership.
Ryan Hanlon, PhD, Vice President, National Council for Adoption.
We don't want to come in and start bullying around the teachers or our pediatricians or others, making lots of demands and telling them exactly what they need to be doing for us.
It's really important that as parents, we're coming to the table with solutions.
Barb Clark, Parent Support and Training Specialist, North American Council on Adoptable Children.
As opposed to just complaining and whining and venting.
An animation showing the intersection of parents and teachers.
Being an advocate is extremely important, and I would say this is even more important for families that are grown through foster care or adoption. One of the areas where this comes up most frequently is in the school system.
So you're going to need to be an advocate in the school setting. If they're struggling at all in school, whether it's academically or behaviorally, I'll volunteer in my other children's classrooms and I'll do other things for her teacher to help. You're going to need to be working with the school and building a relationship so that you can get them the right supports and interventions that they need.
Don't be afraid to advocate for the needs that you've identified. So what that looks like in terms of advocacy is really informing ourselves. What are the different developmental milestones that a child should be at? What are the expectations for a child at a particular stage?
We're very intimidated at medical appointments or doctor appointments, psychologist appointments, because these people have all these letters and numbers behind their name, and we think that that makes them super important, but they are no more important than we are. Your voice needs to be the one that is heard the most, and you need to just understand that and to try not to be so intimidated by the system and the way that it's set up.
Keep records of everything: background information, educational and medical records, school report cards, and basically anything that's received about the child. This is particularly important and challenging for parents who adopt inter-country, as they often are given little or no information about the child. For these parents, it's critical to access clinics that specialize in medical and developmental issues in children adopted from other countries.
One of the biggest pieces of advice I have for families is to document as much as possible. If you have tried various medications, to document that, the dates that they were tried, what the reaction was.
Keep a log where they're tracking down the issues that they're concerned about, the questions that they want to raise during that visit, so that they have it ready when their social worker comes for their scheduled visits.
If you keep a notebook of those things, you can go back to it and look and be like, oh, okay, I should try that next time. And you can kind of use that as a really helpful notebook of strategies that work.
Be prepared. This means that parents who are fostering or adopting are proactive in seeking out services in their area and in getting connected with groups and support networks long before there is a crisis.
We know that every child placed for adoption, every child who's been in foster care has had a loss of some sort.
What's been going on in your home today?
We don't want to wait until that child's emotionally drained or our family's emotionally drained before we start seeking the support or the help that we need. We want to be meeting that child's needs before they're visibly manifest.
Become a lifelong learner. Recognize that as the child grows and matures, or as other children move into your home, you will need to learn new strategies and techniques. It is important to continue to learn and expand your skills so that you can provide a nurturing, safe environment for the children in your care. As children grow, new issues may surface from time to time. Issues such as loss and grief, attachment, identity, and other issues. For adopted children and those who have been in foster care, these feelings are normal, and they'll call for new skills, resources, and support.
Screen text reads, "Become a lifelong learner." A list of 4 items. Look for resources on adoption, learn about developmental expectations, research services in your area, and connect with groups ahead of time.
As part of your learning and being prepared, you can refer to books, magazines, websites, conferences, training workshops, support groups, videos, as well as advice and guidance from child welfare and other professionals. Learn all you can about developmental expectations for children, while remembering that these are not hard and fast timelines, but suggested guidelines. Look for services in your community prior to placement, and get connected with groups so that you are prepared once the child moves into your home. Don't forget about yourself.
Screen text reads, "Self-care."
We are not going to be effective advocates for our child if we're not taking care of ourselves. If we are at the end of our rope, if we aren't able to regulate ourselves, if we're not getting enough sleep, if we're not eating healthy, if we're not getting the exercise that our body needs, we are not going to be able to perform or to operate or to interact with others in a healthy way. Look out for yourself. Look out for your marriage. Look out for all of your family. That's going to be a way that you're going to be in a position to best advocate on behalf of the child that's joining your family.
Create a group of friends and family who understand the child's needs and can provide support. This is part of your therapeutic network, a support system, information resource, and a place for social interaction about the adoption experience. The therapeutic network is made up of everyone who can be of help in caring for a foster child or child who has been adopted. Therapeutic networks vary in size and scope. They could be local or regional, and they break out into 2 categories, formal and informal groups.
2 diagrams show examples of the informal group and the formal group. The informal group example shows other foster and adoptive parents, friends, neighbors, extended family, relatives, and faith leaders. The formal group examples include case manager, a coach, pediatrician, occupational therapist, teacher, counselor, tutor.
The formal group includes all of the professional services you can access.
These are going to be individuals who are knowledgeable and competent about the different factors that will be impacting that family's life. So they're going to understand trauma and separation and loss and grief. They have an understanding of identity development, and they understand the implications for families that have grown through adoption and may have more than one race in their family, or have a child from a different ethnic background, and the implications that will bring for their community dynamics and their family dynamics. And they're going to help the family, not just the child, but everyone in that family, know how to be responding when different issues may arise, when different challenges may arise, and when different opportunities are present. There are counselors and therapists and support groups.
Trauma-informed and adoption competent.
Our goal is to be partnering with them.
Whether it's in child welfare,
or a doctor,
whether it's teachers,
or a coach.
There are people who are a really good fit for you and your family. And then there's a lot of informal support groups that just start to happen. From my own personal experience, I have found that the connections with other parents is the most crucial and the most helpful resource out there.
There are ways to find them online. There are local support groups that can be contacted. There are referrals that can be received from pediatricians and therapists and others who can help connect us to a larger network of families.
Families need to be able to find a place where this feels normal in a way. Going back to connecting with other adoptive, foster, and kinship families can help to normalize some of these behaviors.
Connecting with, parent groups in their local community, religious groups in the local community, they often have support communities that are formed around adoption and foster care and can help families connect with other families that are similar to them.
What we really need to do is to try to give our friends and family the type of education that we've been getting so that they can kind of understand, because the majority of the time I will see that make a big difference in how our family supports us.
Kinship caregivers seeking advice and support will find people in similar situations in specialized support groups. These groups often use social media to connect with other relative caregivers. They share resources, recommend professionals, and help caregivers feel that they are not alone.
For kinship caregivers, there's a couple of differences. One is that there often is a really complex relationship still with the biological parents of the children that are in the kinship placement. And so there's a lot of support that kinship families need in how to navigate that and looking for different advice.
Groups are also available for children in foster care and those who are adopted.
A list including online support groups, blogs, Facebook pages, and private groups.
Peer support groups, where they can see that their experiences are normal. Just as it is important for parents who are fostering or adopting to be around others who understand their situation and may be walking a similar path, it is critical for the children to have the same level of support. There are many ways to find these services and supports, both on a local and national level. Make sure you talk to your worker about this early in the process so that you know the services and supports that are available to you. Do some research to identify the national organizations that provide support and resources. Remember that even when families move to adoption, there are services and supports that continue to be available for both the child and the family. Sometimes the need for support is associated with particular events or times of year. We call them triggers because it's the event itself that brings on a reaction that is both serious and unexpected. It is important for parents who are fostering or adopting to be aware of these triggers and to plan for them well in advance.
Events that can be triggers for children, a list including birthdays, anniversaries of placement, holidays and ceremonies, school projects, medical visits, new pregnancy and birth, divorce, contact with birth parents or relatives, death of family member or pet, and child and or family members move in or out of the home.
In general, there are many types of services available for children and their families. Be sure you're looking for organizations and providers that have experience with separation, grief, and loss, services that are trauma-informed, and professionals who understand foster care and adoption. You will need different services and supports at different parts in your adoption journey. They might be mental health services, including counseling and psychiatric care, health services, academic assistance, occupational therapy, support groups, and training for yourself and others in your informal network. Every now and then, you should secure respite time for you, your spouse, and your parenting partner. And let's face it, even though you're the one getting the break, your child may very well need a break from you.
Now, many families, their children, because of attachment or trauma histories, need to be with somebody that they're comfortable with and know, and that's a safer place for them. For many families, it's the opposite, and their children do better it's somewhere that they don't know the people.
Who are our service providers? Who are we going to call? We want to figure that out in advance. We want to have their numbers written down. We might save them in our phone in advance and know here's who we're going to call if a crisis happens. Here's who we're going to call that's adoption competent. Here's who we're going to meet with that already knows our family. And we're going to have one less thing to worry about in the middle of a crisis.
Adoption and foster care is a commitment that you do not have to make alone. Services are available to help meet these challenges, solve problems, and to preserve your family. These services bring positive results, promote healthy family relationships, and resolve issues common to families who foster or adopt.
So what that looks like in terms of advocacy is really informing ourselves what are the different developmental milestones that a child should be at, knowing where a child's at, and then from there encouraging and finding the resources to help move that child along developmentally to reach that child's full capacity.
It's important that I'm focusing on what's going on with them, not how it impacts me. There are times and places when that's an important thing to bring up, but for the most part, when we're in an advocacy role for our child, we need to focus on the child.
This video was funded by the Children's Bureau, Administration on Children, Youth, and Families, Administration for Children and Families, U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, under grant number 90C01134. The contents of this video are solely the responsibility of the authors and do not necessarily represent the official views of the Children's Bureau.